Hello and welcome. We are here today with Angela Mendes, my friend and remarkable and very unconventional life coach, whose company I'm sure you will enjoy very much. And we're going to talk about Yin-Yang journaling and in general about journaling and what Yin-Yang journaling means, how we see it. And we would like you to reflect on this principle in your journaling as well. And hopefully we'll provide you plenty of food for thoughts and food for the soul, of course. And you are very much encouraged to ask us questions, put your comments in the chat, and reflect. Most importantly, this is for you to reflect on your current journaling practices and how you would like to improve it, how you would like it better, and how it worked for you in the past, and how you would like to work it for you in the future. So, Angela, my question is to you first. When did you start journaling? And what your first journaling was about?
Reflecting, of course, I wouldn't call it journaling because back then it was very popular to have like a diary where you'd write everything that you've done on the day, and I never had one of those. But I used those that they would give girls especially.
Yeah.
I used those to write every now and then, and looking back I would write about emotions. I would write if something went wrong, if I had something stuck, if I had like um, a, an argument with someone. It was usually something about emotions, something that needed to be worked. And the funny thing is that I always tear that apart. It was like too intense or too much that I couldn't even read it. I would write it
Mm.
down and tear it. So I was very young. I would say beginning of teenage years, maybe preteen. That's when I remember these emotions wanting to be acknowledged and seen. So, what about you? When did you start?
Oh, thank you so much. A great answer. So you were very emotional and very decisive with your journals, right? Because you decided the fate of the journal straight away. I started journaling pretty much about the same time, so probably the same year as Angela, right? I was early teenager, and I would write, of course, as any teen would, about my emotions and feeling and what happened. Mainly, I was writing about social interaction, school,
Mm.
friends, parents, neighborhood, this kind of thing, because this was area which was difficult to meet. Not like I had bad relationship with people. I didn't have the depth and quality and love and warmth that I really needed, or this is at least how it seemed at the time. So I would write about this. I would write about myself as well. I was trying to clarify who I am, basically clarify the question who I am, where I'm going, what I'm supposed to do here, basic life questions, right? And as well as that, I would also write about how I would like my future life to be. So I had some dreams and plans and longings and ideas for future life, and I would make lists. I would write it all down. And interestingly, my first journals actually my mom kept. God bless her. I am so grateful, and now I have those journals with me. I missed a lot of intermediate journal because I'm pretty much journaling my entire life in different shape and form and different capacity with different practical implications. But those first journals I recently got back and I was reading. It was great. So first journals I kept. No, never somehow crossed my mind the idea to destroy the journal. Okay, if you are listening to us, people who are listening to us, please, we would like you to reflect on your journaling practices, your early journaling practices. When did you start journaling? What happened to your early journal and what you tended to journal about? Also, what I noticed, just a little extension to this question, how your themes, which transpired during your early journaling, got resolved or got transferred into your journaling right now. I wrote a lot over the years about conflicts, internal conflicts, external conflicts, my doubts, my sort of subterranean currents. I would bring them to the surface. And I wanted to consciously, very intentionally work on some issues, say social interactions. So I read a lot of very interesting books when I was teenager, and I actively, consciously, intentionally practiced my social interactions. And it got much better. It stopped being a problem. So if I journal now about people, I journal about my family for sure, my family members, but not about interaction as general as a rule, because as I said, this is the area of my life I consciously worked on. And I think this is one of the key to journaling. If something is really bothering you, something is the matter, you need to write about it, and you need to ask yourself plenty of questions in your journaling. And then with time, you will see that naturally you will focus yourself. Your subconscious will keep working for you, finding answers and clues to these questions, even if you don't come up with any answers in your immediate journaling. So do journal and ask questions. So, um, what what is your next question, Angela? Let's
No,
carry on with.
I was listening to you and I was reflecting on my own experience and how journaling has shifted, because I had many phases as well. I did conscious stream journaling. I journal in specific prompts. I did the artist's way. I did a lot of journaling and reflecting, and I used journals, especially after my training, with very intensive, very intent for resolution or for something. And gradually, as I shifted, journaling has changed. For me, journaling has become a much more of an embodied practice, as if I use journaling to lower the speed of my mind and access something that I can't without writing. So that's very interesting. I didn't know when I was doing that, which is um, that I was literally giving pen to my emotions, which is something that I always recommend clients to do. But my question to you is, what happens when you don't journal?
Thank you. This is a great question. The short answer is my soul, as I found out, much to my surprise, speaks to me in writing, quite simply. So somehow, when I journal, I see myself, I connect with myself, I hear myself. Whether I accept myself or allow myself, this is a different matter. But I'm here. I'm here for myself. I'm here for myself and with myself. So when I don't journal, I feel disconnected. I don't have this sort of, my fingers on the pulse of my own internal self. And also, I tend to forget about those periods of times when I don't journal. So if there was a time when I didn't journal, I somehow forget what was happening in this period of time. And this is interesting development from what we talked about already. What do you actually journal about very often? Very often, especially from where we started, right? We sort of complain to our journal. We complain about life, right? Here is a conflict. Here is a social interaction. Here is whatever. Here is my lost path. What do I do? And very rarely, unless we're specially trained, and I'm sure, Angela, this is something that came up early in your practice as a life coach, unless we focus on gratitude and unless we list gratitude, rarely people journal about things which went right. And I made myself a rule some time ago: on a very bad day, on a really bad day, when many, many things went wrong, I would journal, complaining and mourning to my journal about things which went wrong, trying to clarify what was my participation, why things went wrong. Maybe it was because of me. What can I do better next time? But after I put all this on paper, I would sit down and remember every tiny little thing which went right this day. Tiny, tiny, tiny. A cup of coffee, a ray in sunshine, something like that, a little short walk. And if I didn't have anything like that, I would go and do something nice for myself. I would put it down and I would highlight it in nice pink color. So I know that the whole day there was something. Obviously there was some learning, and I highlight learning as well, but I'm trying to somehow, even on a bad day, on a bad day on a learning day, spiritual development day, I'm trying to consciously come up with something. And I'm sure, Angela, you're familiar with, so there is this recent tendency in behavioral neurophysiology, which I'm sure you follow, this trend to focus on positive, dwell on positive, not just focus on the positive, but dwell on positive, making it bigger, better, longer. And so this is exactly what we can do with journaling. So now, if I'm going on holiday, for example, in the past, I would not journal about it at all because I'm going on holidays. Is it a problem? There might be problems on holiday, but generally, yes, I'm just having a good time. I'm living my life. However, then when I read my journal, it's almost as if it never happened. So I start to really put some little keywords, short sentence. Where went this day? If you are away somewhere, where did we go? What happened? Just not necessarily emotions or something, just facts, just what happened on this particular day. So later on, I can make it again bigger, better, longer, dwell on the positive, and I can really have this reference point. So yes, this was a very long answer to your question. What happens when I don't journal? I disconnect and I lose track of times and I forget about good times. Over to you, Angela. What happens when you don't journal?
We have a comment here, and Felipa says that I have million of books with thoughts, stories, feelings since I was 12. It was
Wow.
amazing company, and to clear my mind, I stopped writing regularly some years ago, and then started to make journaling with pictures and not words. I love that. And Peter says, I never journal. This conversation is my first experience with journaling. I'm a Dutch male, 63 years old. Is there still time to start journaling? Thank you,
Abs-
Peter, for joining.
Absolutely. Can I just answer Peter's question first? Absolutely. I would like to share very, very briefly, a very personal story. When my father was about 60, he started writing his autobiography. He started writing it for my eldest son, so he dedicated it to my eldest son. But obviously, then we all read it. And in his opening sort of verse, he said, "Oh, I'm around 60. I'm not sure what time holds for me, and so on. But I would like to share about my life, so my family knows about a little bit of a family history, and obviously through a lens of his experience." And I tell you, this was one of the most amazing journeys I ever received in life. And I knew about this journal. This was not a journal. This was like a big book, right? Still is. And I never paid attention to a certain point, but when I did, it was such a gift. I'm reading it, and there is a lot of wisdom. So whether or not, Peter, you're going to do it for yourself only, or you're going to do it for other people to potentially benefit from it, please do, because absolutely, it's a fantastic time. And answering the question, previous question, not answering, but commenting about the girls' journaling. Do you remember? At least I'm not sure how it was in your country, in your times, but in my country, in my times, the girls had this like sort of books with pictures and with photographs and with some postcards. And what do I like? Which music do I like? Which book do I like? Who are my friends? And who are my thoughts? And so on. So yeah, there are many, absolutely many ways to journal, both for men and women. And yes, we do tend to journal about different things. And I think we just feel this internal calling to share something. And mistakenly, we can think that this is only for ourselves. It is not. It's never only for ourselves. But even if nobody is ever going to read your journal, the way you express yourself to yourself through your journal is going to illuminate the past for many people, because you yourself will understand yourself better. You will be able to share yourself better with other people. So this is the point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think depending on where I am and how I use journaling, because I do use journaling in many different ways, that's what I really enjoy from your training, Irina, was giving me this expanded view on how many ways I can use journaling, not just for my benefit, but also a for variety, right? It's like sometimes it's you just do the same thing over and over again. And with your training, what I got was a completely different, expanded version of possibilities. And that I loved because basically I've used many different ones throughout my life, and I tend to stick to some depending on where I am. But as I said, for me, when I don't journal, it's as if there's a lack of coming home. There's a lack of a relationship with myself, an awareness of where I am. And that has not very good benefits for me. So for me, not journaling brings me that, and I start noticing. I go, oh yes. Today, a client asked me because we were talking about. I was challenging her to do a mindfulness embodied practice, and she was like, can you do this? And I said, it depends. It depends if I'm keeping my practice, if I'm journaling, if I am meditating, if I'm coming home to myself. Because if I can, then I'm much quicker in catching myself as if I'm closer to my own experience. So that's what happens when I don't. And I think we already started talking about the benefits. But
Absolutely.
do you
And
want
thank you for mentioning that, Angela, because it's interesting how things work. This morning I woke up and somehow very important but sort of half forgotten concept came to me, a container. Because I was talking to one of my students yesterday, and we talked about this container for certain energies, for certain transformational sort of situation in her life. Once upon a time, a long time ago, I had a really amazing being as a patient. He was one of the most enlightened, and I mean truly enlightened being, and he did really amazing jobs for community and so on. And he introduced me to the concept of container, which is simple concept in itself, but in a more spiritual way. In a simple way, a container is everything which you obviously hold something in, and it could be container for water, it could be container for flowers if this is a vase, right? So what you mentioned, coming home to yourself, journal is your container for your inner life. It's the perfect, the easiest, the quickest way to create this container, this space which is yours only, and the space which you share with the solitude and with the silence and with life itself. And this is also important because very often we just go without any stopping. We don't create this. We obviously have our rooms, right? We have our corners, we have our chair, we have our sofa, but internal container, we don't pay much attention to this concept. And I think it's very, very important. We need to create something intentionally, and we come back to it, and we come back to it. We feed ourselves from this container, and we feed the container, and it could be very beautiful. So thank you
that?
for sharing. So
You're
interesting.
welcome. I think so. Irina and I met at the networking event. We both hated networking, and I was at the beginning of my coaching career, and we met at the networking event, and we immediately connected, kind of saying, "Please save me, take me to the corner, and just talk to me. Don't let me talk to anyone else," which was what we did. But I found out that Irina was a scientist. She has an amazing background, and from that background, she started all over again. I'm going to let you introduce yourself in the right way. I'm just sharing my experience of you, because you bring something that I love and admire, which is the aspect of the scientific study. You're very rigorous and very perfectionist in a way, because you're very detail oriented, and you bring the scientific part, embracing the mystery, the not knowing, the discovery, the curiosity, which I think the two combine. And when you were sharing about the gratitude journal, I remember we were doing that at the same time. Remember, we used to get together and
I remember.
share that. Yeah. So this was like 14 years ago or something like that, maybe more, maybe 15. I can't remember.
Absolutely.
But
Uh,
for me, it would be very beneficial if you talked how you use that for your work, because you mentioned students, you teach color puncture. Um, how do you use journaling with your students, with your practice, with your therapy?
Thank you for your question, Angela. It is very interesting because with journalists, I said I journaled on and off my entire life. And at some point, I did a really sort of deep sort of immersion into journal for nearly a decade. I journaled nearly every day for a very long time. And I went to amazing depths. And while I was doing it for myself, because I need to clarify something for myself, I came up with lots of tips because at the same time I already had clinic, my practice in acupuncture and colourpuncture, and I came up with some tips which would help my patients. And then those becomes journaling prompts. Those becomes this tricks and tools of the trades that you enjoyed so much on my course earlier this year. So first of all, yes, I do have background in science. I am neuroscientist by education, and interestingly enough, I studied in my science days how part of what I studied, how our memory are made on a level of nervous system. And interestingly, what I'm doing now with colourpuncture and acupuncture, and what I'm observing with processes, I think the technique is in terms of colourpuncture does matter because it's much in-depth technique. But any other therapy, any other technique, any other experience can bring you to this. Can you bring to discovering the depths of yourself and how it all sort of how you work internally and how your memories work. So colourpuncture in brief for somebody who doesn't know what it is, colourpuncture is a form of acupuncture. You can think about it as like deluxe acupressure. So instead of needles, I'm using colored light, which I'm applying at certain points on the skin, for example, and I can do it for physical problems. So, and then this is very similar to acupuncture, just non-invasive. But also, colourpuncture excels at conflict resolution. We have the entire family of treatment called conflict resolution. Colourpuncture somehow relaxes you very, very deeply, so the body has this experience of deep relaxation when it's almost like it's you and the body and nothing else matters. And then very often, what naturally happens, people start getting some memories or they start having some associations. I usually talk a lot with people before the session, be that acupuncture or colourpuncture. We talk a lot and we consciously focus on a question, unless, of course, they come in with a full cold or flu and I need to give them some needles or some colourpuncture for cold flu. But if they come in for more in-depth or more for building sustainable health or more in-depth exploration of self, then we talk a lot and we clarify, we focus our intention, and then I'm giving them this body session and they're going deeper. And when they're going deeper, very often an image comes, so a memory, some connection, some associations between things which you already talked about, which already happened, but this connection was not there before. So body therapy, colourpuncture therapy gives you that. And very often it's very, very clear. The image is clear, the feeling is clear, the emotion is clear, the pain or discomfort in the body which comes into your awareness is clear. Very often, though, it is not. Very often we have intriguing image or a memory or something, but somehow it like doesn't feel complete or doesn't feel important. It feels, especially with memories, oh, this is just a regular memory. And this is where all this sort of um, kind of exploration around happens. Very often, what happens when we have some event, our memory works in a way that it protects us. Our subconscious protects us from things that we are not ready to deal with. The thing is, when something comes up during a body session, it means that this is a pain point in the body, somewhere in the body, in your energy field, in your tissues, no matter how you frame it. But this is some pain point, which is ready to come out, but it's not quite complete. Very often with colourpuncture, it is complete. In skillful hands, with long enough session, we can come up with something. But what I do also, I advise people to do journaling after, to find this quiet moment after the session, to disengage completely from my field, from anyone's field, before they return into the environment which as they left, right? And they sit in a cafe or they sit in a car, sometimes they sit downstairs in my room and they just journal. They sit with themselves. It's almost like an extension of session, and then they coming up with new connection in with associations. And some new knowledge, some new insight comes, which is very, very important, which sort of completes the full picture. There is this game called warmer, hot. There are two people. One people hides the object, another person cold, searching. So this person searching, they obviously just go around. They have no idea what the object is. The person who hid the object, they know, and so they say cold or warmer, colder or hot. So this works about the same way, both in space and in time with memories. So sometimes we are given some image during body session or some memory association or some dream, which gives us a particular space in space, in 3D space, in our real space, or particular moment of time, which does not mean anything important seemingly, but then we can explore around. And this is where journaling comes fully into power, because we can, by skillfully asking questions, basically asking the same questions, but from very many different angles. So we bypass our defenses, because if something was lifted to the level of your sort of half awareness, it means that subconscious does not protect you any longer. You are free to deal with it. You're ready. You're mature enough. You have support. You feel supported. You feel in resource. You feel able to resolve the question, the problem. And then we just need this final touch. And very often this final touch is journaling. So yes, I do value stream of conscious journaling and journaling prompts, absolutely. And it's very interesting, surprised me all the time.
Yeah. And I guess that was the reason that we started this conversation, right? Because I recommend clients to journal. And for me, journaling is this ability to see myself. And I think as humans, as mammals, we have this inherited need to be seen. And when we journal, it is as if we are being seen. We are witnessing our inner world, our emotions, our thought process, our strategies, our struggles. Whatever it is as if I am creating space to witness myself. So when I attended Irina's training, Irina is really detailed. She's very, very information oriented. You have tons of information with Irina. And I thought, what if Irina and I could offer an intro to this vast world of journaling, something that would be short but would allow people to start if they haven't started, Peter, or it allows people to have different strategies or different prompts or different questions. So when you say, what is this Yin-Yang journaling? It came from that. It came from my need, because I'm very different from Irina. We use journaling in very different ways. You've just shared. I have to write by hand, because the purpose of my journaling is to slow my mental process first and then to come closer to my embodied experience. And Irina types for a very specific intention and for a specific result that and so it is as if one goes in and the other goes out. Of course, we can use in many aspects of journaling, but the Yin-Yang journaling started as my need, actually, to bring these tools to a level that we can start at my own rhythm. I respect my rhythm. I need much slower than Irina. Irina is fast in everything she does, in a way that it kind of stimulates curiosity and attention. So this is what the Yin-Yang journaling. But my question for you is, in your own journal, how do you identify the yin part and the yang part, the action-oriented or the more rest and digest part, right? The sympathetic
Yeah.
nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. How do you identify that when you are journaling? And maybe if you journal, you can start paying attention to that. And if you don't journal, maybe when you start journaling, you start with that invitation. And yeah. So
you for your question, Angela. And I would
Yeah.
like to question also with um, our first comment in mind
Yeah.
about how often should we journal. Obviously, there are no rules of how often do we journal. And coming up to the yin-yang question, this depends. This really depends on what you're journaling for. And why yin-yang journaling? Journaling tends to reflect our inner and our outer life, right? Would you agree? Everything in this dimension can broadly be divided into categories. And we are either in a yin state or yang state. So, briefly speaking, yin is middle of the winter, midnight. It's sort of very feminine, very receptive energy. This is very much energy of reaction. And the symbol is moon, obviously, midnight. And yang energy is completely opposite. This is very dynamic, very assertive, very proactive energy. This is the height of summer. This is the midday. This is this kind of energy. And we are invited by life and by our body physiology. Thank you for mentioning sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. We are invited to a constant dynamic interplay between yin and yang states. And it's very important to decide, coming back to the question how often and how much, right? It's very important to see when we actually need to come from in state to yang state, when we journal to go in and to clarify our feelings and emotions and understand, and we got to some sort of clarity. Very often we ask ourselves this question in the first place because some change was needed on the external, and so we go in, we ask this question. So then emerging from this in state of reflection, coming up with this question and into what needs to change, we are invited, we need to come up to a different stage, to this yang of action, to some kind of new habits, to some kind of new activity, which will help us to reframe the original situation. So this is constant dynamic change. I would say in a busy periods of life when you really don't feel like journaling, but you still want to record your life because every moment is precious, you just make yourself a habit to write about one thing which happened today, which was important. One thing, two things, three things, depends how much time you have. Excuse me. If you have a period of time when you really need to go in, and especially this is time of solitude, this is time when there is a depth of winter and you don't have much to do if you're very much connected with outdoor activities, for example, there are times when we are really supported with this in energy. The whole winter is in. So we just went from the young energy of spring and summer, and we are entering this deep and long period of in energy of autumn and winter, deepening autumn and winter. And we are asked by the season change itself now to see what we dreamt about, what we planned previous winter in our previous in state, right? And then what we started doing, what came into being during spring, what we perfected during summer, what we harvested, so to speak, during late summer, early autumn. And what from all this we want to take into a new cycle? What needs to be stored? What needs to be let go of? What needs to be reflected upon? And we are again entering this in time. So this is just a simple example how it could be done. So depends on what you would like to achieve. This is how often you journal. And basically on a simple level you can clarify with your journaling where you are because you're using a particular words, and this is something that you can if you're interested in expanding and deepening your journaling techniques, by all means join us for this Yin-Yang journaling event, and we will teach you plenty of very very simple tips and tricks how to determine in which state you are in. It's intuitive, and so you go with your intuition first, but then you go with some analysis of your existing writing. And yes, Angela, you do read your journals for that. You don't tear them apart, you don't burn them. You read your journals and you work with your paper and pen and you highlight and you take everything you see. This is your analysis stage. This is how you see where you are. So your idea of being here, right? The whole concept of being here. I very often can just compare it with when you're in a situation, when you're in a new city and you want to go in a particular place to a particular place, but you have no idea where you are at the moment. So you're searching for this big map of a center of the city which say you are here. And then there is a point where you want to go. So if you don't know where you are, there is no chance you're going to get where you want to go. And another part of it is actually enjoying where you are, right, in a new situation. So there are many levels to it, there are many layers to it. Also, there is a concept, speaking of yin and yang, I think it's very important, and I think I will, on my part, wrap up on this. There is a good quality yin, and there is a good quality yang, and there is a poor quality yin and poor quality yang. And this is concept coming concerning the diet, the lifestyle habits, and etc., etc. With our focus on journaling, I would say that here it's more about if this is the action, is this your action? Is it aligned with you yourself as a person, with your inner wiring? If this is the inner of reflection, is it being sort of a stage? Is it aligned with what you are on the internal? And a very simple reflection exercise which you can do right now, you can just see your early years, how you tended to be. Did you tend to react to other people? Or did you tend to create a lot of activity around yourself as a child, right? How did your early environment shape you? What you were encouraged to do? Were you encouraged to be quiet? Or were you encouraged to share yourself and express yourself? And if you're talking about main body of work you did, what kind of environment you worked in? Coming back to my years in science, I spent 15 years in science. This was beautiful. It came to an end at some point, but this was really sort of bright and clear time in my life when I thought I knew what I was doing. And I was successful in it. I really enjoyed it. It was really a sort of more young environment. It was male dominated. It was very logical, very firm, very structured, very competitive. All this kind of young energy connotation. And then I retrained as a therapist of acupuncture and colourpuncture. Excuse me. And obviously, I descended straight to the yin of reflection, relaxation, remembrance of different things, and so on and so forth, female dominated environment. That was also very beautiful. I'm still in therapy, I'm not doing science anymore. I probably retain some of the qualities of scientists. I'm a problem solver, right? And yeah, obviously I work with a lot of information, but I'm still in therapy, but I'm also doing now a lot of group work. I'm doing challenges. I'm doing Dreamwork challenge. I'm doing Colourpuncture challenge. I'm doing journaling challenge. And with group work, and especially with journaling prompts, this is much more balanced for me as a person in Yang. And this is something we originally, coming back to how we met, Angela, and what we wanted to bridge therapy and life coaching because we both felt that the other part was missing. Therapy is fantastic. I love therapy, especially colourpuncture. Colourpuncture is the greatest gift. It can let you discover parts of yourself which you never knew existed, and it could be real bliss. However, sometimes some action is needed after this initial insight. And I think this is completely missing. I know that it was part of your training to journal. It was not part of any therapy training. Absolutely not. No matter how sort of counterintuitive it is to journal. So you lie on a couch, you receive your therapy, and then you go home and then you hope for the best. And very often it does happen, but sometimes you do need to clarify the issue first, as I mentioned before, and you need to take it into some action, into some change. Very often we are talking about lifestyle changes. Very often we're talking about pattern, sort of repatterning, de-assembling some sort of old concept, reassembling it in new. And this is really, really important. You need to be aligned with what you're doing. You need to feel that what you're doing is the right thing to do. So yes, journaling is absolutely incredible for all that.
We have a comment that says, I've never journaled, but I feel I will try and I will start. Thank you both for the inspiration and the different points of view.
Yes, that's
I have to say
Yes.
From my way of working, because I do believe in the title of the book, Getting There by Being Here, Life's Invitations to Dance. I do believe, depending on where you are, you're totally allowed to burn your journal or destroy it or not read it. You do you. And you do you when that is for you at the moment. So for me, there's no strict rules because it starts where you are. And depending on where you are, you might need different things. And that's the beauty of working and collaborating, because you get perspectives that go beyond my own experience or Irina's experience. And that's our invitation for you for these 3 hours. It will be November 9th. The link is already available. Irina has made that available. If you're interested in these 3 hours, we have a special offer for the first few weeks, I think.
Yep.
I don't have the dates, but join us and come and play with journaling, because it is a world, but not just a world to discover itself in journaling, but a world and a gateway, as Irina said, towards you, and how you find out what's here that needs your attention in whatever way, going in or going out, asking for action from you. Any other further questions? I know if you don't have a YouTube channel, you probably won't be able to comment. If you have any comments, reach out to us both on our social medias or through email and ask us questions. Irina has the link available, so just follow up, and I hope to see you on November 9th.
Thank you for that, Angela. Also, I wanted to add that during October, before November, during October, I'm offering free mini consultation online on journaling. So we connect and we create a prompt together. So it's 15-20 minutes. You describe the situation in your life you want to address with journaling. And we come up. It's not like I give you a prompt, but I can give you a prompt. But I think the greatest gift I can offer is to share with you how to create your own prompt. So with or without me or without anyone else, at any given moment of time, you can create your own prompts, and going by this prompt, you can ask yourself layers and layers of questions with just one prompt questions, and then obviously layers of answers as well. So yes, if you have any further questions but you don't have YouTube channel, and I know it's tricky to comment if you don't, then please do connect. I have contact page, and yes, come up, and we can connect online as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and I think it's fantastic. And Yin-Yang, Angela, this is what we wanted exactly, that when people hear and see us very different, so you can start wondering about Yin-Yang, right, in our personalities, in our environment, in our approach. One last thing I wanted to mention is that very often, and it's very sort of popularized, you need to be more than do, and then everything will be fine, and we need relaxation, and we do, and I agree completely, because sympathetic dominance is a big problem. Burnout is a big problem. Information overload is a big problem. However, sometimes we know exactly what we need to do. Speaking of good quality in yang, right? But we are not doing it. And so what I found that for some people, it is through actually doing what they need to do, what they know they need to do, then that the being comes. Because if you don't do that, if you just relax and take it easy and everything else, the spirit will be keeping knocking on your door of your conscious saying, come on, the time is ticking. You have to do what you promised to do. Promise to yourself, in yourself. And then from this quality doing of your own sort of alignment, then absolutely by product comes good quality being. So in and yang is a big topic. Please reach out, connect with Angela, connect with myself. And yes, if you're interested in expanding and deepening your tools, by all means, join us on the 9th of November. And it's going to be very interactive, very friendly, very informal, and I'm sure you will enjoy it. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.